and welcome back to the Summer Series 2.0 with Inspiring Workplaces in partnership with H&H. We're on day 6, and what a summer it's shaping up to be, and what a summer of learning it's shaping up to be too. I'm Ruth Gantz. I'm from Inspiring Workplaces, and I'm one of the hosts for the Summer Series. And as I said just a couple of days ago, I'm so excited for this time of the day again today. If you've seen the week 1 highlights reel, you'll see that we've had speakers across the world on topics such as trust, diversity, equality and inclusion, hybrid working and well-being. And today we're bringing you not 1, but 2 speakers. The absolutely incredible double act that is Emma Bridger and Belinda Gannaway. Emma runs People Lab. She's also a leading speaker and all things employee experience. She's an author, a coach and a psychologist too. And Belinda, she's a director of strategy and culture change at Fathom, and she's been helping build brands from the inside out for over 20 years. Would you believe it? They both recently combined their amazing brains, and they co-authored a book together called Employee Experience by Design: How to Create an Effective EX for Competitive Advantage. And today they will be exploring with us a model that gives us a much deeper understanding of what makes a great experience and delivers engagement. So, Emma, Belinda, are you here?
Yeah.
Hi, Ruth. I put my shirt on because it's a summer series. Do you like it?
I love it.
I'm on brand, Ruth.
Well, you're both looking very summery, and it's very summery where you are, is it?
Yeah.
Nearly did it in the garden. I thought maybe the Wi-Fi couldn't quite cope with it, but I was very tempted.
I'm so tempted. I'm determined to get one of these sessions in my garden too. But right now I've got my 3 little boys eating ice creams in the garden, and I just don't think it would go very well. So we're excited that we've got not 1 but 2 today, and I'm really excited because I know that you 2 are incredible at what you do, and even better when you bring your heads together, as you just did in your amazing new book that you've recently released. So Belinda, I believe I'm gonna oh, there it is, just like oh, of magic. So Belinda, I'm going to hand over to you first. You're going to give us a bit of intro, context, etc. And I will disappear for 20 minutes. I'll let you 2 take the stage, okay?
Amazing. We're trusting you not to go and sit in the garden and eat ice cream with your boys, but we'll see how you are when you get back. So thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having us. Ruth, as you said, Emma and I have just had our new book published. Here we go, another one just to prove it's real and it exists, and it's for an employee experience by design, and it has been an absolute delight writing that. I think fundamental to the book is one of the core pieces of research that we're going to be talking about now, the Magica model. But before we jump into that, I'll let Emma introduce that. Before we jump into that, just kind of wanted to revisit a little bit of context. And in some ways, most of you, this isn't going to be terribly new, I suspect, but let's just sort of revisit where we are. So I can't even believe I'm going to say it. The world of work is changing. Yes, we know the world of work is changing. It was changing before COVID hit us 16, 18 months ago, and it will continue to change afterwards. What we believe is that a lot of the changes that were in place anyway have simply been accelerated by COVID. So more distributed teams, more diverse teams, greater use of technology, all sorts of things have just been accelerated, I mean magnificently so, by COVID. For the last few years, we've been talking about employers as consumers, employees as consumers of the workplace. By this, we mean that they've just come to expect more, to demand more. And that has created really, in many ways, the business case for employee experience, or rather it started the business case for employee experience sort of 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, when people started to make the case for focusing on employee experience in order to improve the odds around attraction and retention. Gradually, that eked out into a customer experience. People started thinking, oh, if we gave our people a great experience, maybe they'll do the same thing for our customers. Since then, the world has matured a little bit around employee experience. And now we have data to back up our expectations or what we saw anecdotally, that a great employee experience also creates greater productivity and greater innovation as well. So there's now lots of data to support that, which is great. But employee experience, a great employee experience, does not happen by accident. We believe it happens by design. And design starts with an empathic understanding of the human need. And then balancing that need with the needs of the organization and the needs of the work itself. So there's kind of like 3 pillars to this, or 3 things to keep in focus. And the more the conversations we have about designing the best possible employee hybrid work experience, the more those 3 key pillars keep coming into focus. There are an awful lot of myths about what constitutes a great employee experience, and I'm hoping this afternoon we may slay some of those for you. So quick spoiler alert before I hand over to Emma. A great employee experience is not about beanbags or flashy offices or free beer Fridays or cupcake Tuesdays or the best gym membership. It is simply not about those things. It's about something a lot more fundamental. And Emma spent, I think she'll correct me if I'm wrong, at least the last 10 years exploring that and doing this massive piece of research that she's going to share with you now. So I'm going to hand over to Emma to tell you a little bit more about this research and the core elements of a great employee experience.
Oh, thank you, Bea. So you're right. It is kind of the $50 million question, isn't it, in employee experience? What really makes a great experience? And as Bea said, there are a lot of myths and legends about what makes an experience great. And I think the starting point really is that an experience is really subjective, right? We all experience the world in different ways. That sounds really obvious. So why do we kind of then create experiences in ivory towers and expect everybody to have the same reaction to those experiences? It's not going to work. So as Bea said, we've been conducting research for 12 years now, probably a bit longer, into what constitutes a great experience. And we finally got around to analysing the results of the research last summer in lockdown. We didn't really start on this journey to research. We started on this journey to ask people we're working with, what does good look like for you? And then we realized that through those conversations, we were gathering this great data. At some point, we should kind of analyze it all. So we finally got around to it last summer, and we've published the results, and I can share the link with you to get them in full. So just in terms of the research, though, the way that we came at this was it's very qualitative. It was very much about asking people to share stories about times when they were having a great experience at work. The activity we use is actually called Best Experience. And we say, tell us about your best experience at work from any point in your career, a time when you loved what you were doing, when you were firing on all cylinders, when you couldn't wait to get to work. Tell us about that. And it's actually a really lovely activity to run because people love talking about times when things were great. So it's very easy to run. And very quickly, we started to notice there were, interestingly, 2 sides to the coin in terms of what we were hearing. There were what we call universal themes, things that were kind of common again across all these stories we were collecting. And there were some very definite individual differences. We collected these stories, as I said, since starting People Lab 12 years ago, from probably thousands of employees, I'd say, not just hundreds, thousands from across the world. So we've run these activities, these kind of storytelling workshops, if you like, in China, in the Middle East, in Oman, in North Africa, across the whole of Europe, in the US. I think the only place we've never run one of these is probably Australia. So, it's a really, really good data set to kind of draw these conclusions on. So what I'd like to do, just to kind of delve into it a little bit, if you're thinking, well, come on then, show us the money, Emma, tell us what you found out. So I can ask Stefan to share a slide. I'm just going to flash up the model itself. Stefan, are you able to do that? Can people see that? Oh, just coming up. Is it working? Shall I do it from my end? Is that easier? Okay, I'm going to share it from my end. Gotta love a bit of tech. Okay, let's give it a go. It'll be worth it, I promise. Okay. Alrighty. Oh, no, didn't want to do that. Bear with. Here we go. There it is. Hopefully you can all see that. The Magica model. So very simply, Magica stands for these key themes. So these are the universal themes that tend to come out of pretty much every best experience conversation we've had with thousands of people across the world. Some of them you'll probably think are pretty obvious. You might recognize some of these. I'll talk through these all in a little bit more detail in a second. But the other side of the coin with this is that in the middle, we've got this idea of having to pay attention to individual needs and expectations and motivations, because the way we experience the world is really unique to us. It's very subjective. Clearly, people are going to experience things in different ways. So we've got to take time. There's no substitute for taking time to go out and find out what really matters to your people. So, what does good look like for you? And yes, these universal themes will probably pop up. You'll be able to tick them off, but there will also be differences, not just between individuals, but teams and departments. So you've got to take time to do that. Otherwise, you're going to miss half of the story, miss the point. So two really important sides of the coin here. So I'm just going to talk through these one by one, a little bit more detail. If you want to get further into this, I can put a link in the chat afterwards for you to download the research in full. So first of all, meaning. I'm going to stop sharing now because I don't need to kind of have the slide there the whole time to do this. Oops. Let's go back up. Technical problems today. There we go. So I'm going to just, why can't I stop sharing? There we go. Sorry, there we go. PC's played up. So first of all, meaning. And we deliberately went for meaning rather than purpose. Now, we can debate the difference between meaning and purpose. I haven't got time for that now. Jacob Morgan has done a brilliant blog on it. But one of the things about purpose, purpose has been big news, hasn't it, for like the last 10 years or so. What we're finding is that it can kind of alienate some people. So some people absolutely have this kind of big transcendental purpose at work. Maybe they work for a charity or whatever organisation it is. They kind of really buy into the purpose with a capital P. But there are lots of people we found that do jobs that, quite frankly, the idea of having a purpose would be, it kind of feel a little bit insulting to them. Like, I do this job. It's not the job I dreamt about when I was a kid. I always talk about when I was a lettuce trimmer, when I was a student. Yes, that's a real job. If someone had tried to sell me a purpose when I was trimming lettuces, I'd have been insulted by that. What is it? I'm helping to put salad on the nation's tables. I'd have been, mate, I'm just trimming lettuces. There's no big purpose to this, okay? I'm having a great experience for lots of other reasons, but I don't have a purpose for this, Whereas meaning, what we found is that actually people can gain and garner meaning from their jobs, no matter what job they do. So look at something like job crafting, if you're familiar with that. This idea that people can take their job and kind of make tweaks to it to get a little bit more meaning from it. It's the classic example from the research is the cleaner who looks after people's plants while she's cleaning, or he's cleaning. It was actually a she with this example. They got meaning from their work because they enjoyed looking after people's plants from the desks when they were away on holiday. But the job, the purpose of the job was to clean. So that's why we went for meaning. And we know that we're hardwired as humans to find some kind of meaning and point to what we're doing. And anyone that's come across Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning work will know this, and go into this in the white paper in more detail. But there are lots of ways we can find meaning at work. But that was absolutely a key feature of the research. It featured in pretty much every best experience story we gathered. There was some kind of meaning that people got from it, something that kind of just, really resonated with them. And that was very personal to them. So that's what the M stands for. See if I can remember the acronym of magic now. I'm being tested now. The A stands for appreciation. Again, a whole load of neuroscience that explains why being appreciated really helps to, to facilitate a great experience, if you like. When someone appreciates us in a way that works for us, it makes us feel good. When we feel good, we have a release of positive emotions. When we have positive emotions, we have dopamine flooding our brains, and that contributes to our reward circuitry, but also primes our brain to be better at everything we do, which is why we see these kind of best experiences linked to higher engagement and then better performance. It's because of the neuroscience of the brain. So there is kind of method in the madness here. There's science here at work. So that's why that features, and that's why that works. And people like to be appreciated. It's obvious, right? We want to be, someone to notice us doing the right thing, and someone to spot us and say, good job. So that came out. G for growth. Am I getting this right? I'll check on my slides in a minute. So there was often some kind of personal growth going on, and that might have been in terms of kind of traditional development, as in, I'm building capability. But more often than not, it was kind of like a personal sense of growth, that we kind of, learned something from the experience. We got something out of it. We become a better person. So often that was kind of the growth that people were talking about when they relayed these stories. So again, lots of kind of science and psychology to back up what we're finding here. So it could be more traditional or more personal. The I in Magica stands for impact. We like to know that what we're doing makes some kind of difference to someone somewhere. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? So again, that might be a kind of an obvious sort of, impact in terms of salespeople. They love reaching their targets and reaching their goals and having an impact. For other people, it was more subtle. It was like, I know I made a difference to that customer or that colleague I was working with. I know I made a positive impact on the way that they were dealing with things. I was there for them. I gave them my ear, for example. So lots of different ways that people can explain or describe the impact they're having. But at some point, they've made some kind of impact to someone somewhere. So that was the I. I'm just going to share the slides again, just so you can see them, because I've had a note come up. We're down to C now. Connection. So this is a really interesting one right now, because I read something different every day about the role of connection in hybrid working. I think the jury's still out in terms of, can we really have that close connection when we are through screens rather than in person? But connection absolutely came out. Again, we're hardwired as human beings to want to connect with others. That's why we were able to evolve and survive from evolutionary psychological point of view. And the connection was interesting because it might have been with colleagues on a project, it might have been with customers, it might have been with other stakeholders, lots of different ways in which we connect, but connection absolutely featured. It might have also been like a social connection, like fun at a party or something, had some kind of social connection or connection in other ways. But connection was absolutely a big feature of all the stories that we heard. The next C is challenge. I'm doing okay on this. Challenge is a really interesting one. Nobody ever says, I was at my best and I was thriving because I could come in at 9 and leave at 5 and it was dead easy. People like a bit of challenge. They want something to get their teeth stuck into. And it kind of relates to, that growth piece as well. We're not really growing if we're not being challenged. And we've actually written a piece in the book about where pain can be good. And we're not saying, make things deliberately difficult to people, but we kind of need some sense of challenge at work. Otherwise we get bored. And when we get bored, that's when trouble usually starts. So we like challenge, and challenge featured in pretty much every story in terms of, there was this problem to solve and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I did it and it felt amazing. I overcame something, or I proved to myself I could do something I never thought I could do. Pretty much every story featured some kind of sense of challenge. So that's a really interesting kind of, area to consider when you're designing experience. How do we put the right degree of stretch in there? It's a bit of a Goldilocks task. If we make it too challenging, people just switch off, but not enough challenging enough, it's too easy. So challenge absolutely featured. And the last one, A, is autonomy. So autonomy is nothing new when it comes to talking about experience and engagement. I mean, Dan Pink popularized autonomy, mastery, purpose, which was based on a theory called self-determination theory. Everybody, without exception, talks about autonomy when they talk about best experience. They might not use that word, but that's what comes across. It was the fact that they were trusted. They had the space. They were able to make it their own, or they were involved. The quickest way to kill any kind of experience is to sort of take away, or great experience is to take that autonomy away. So we're just sort of following instructions or carrying out, what we've been told to do. So autonomy absolutely features. And again, it's a lot of psychology that links to, but we thrive when we're given autonomy, when we're giving a little bit of space to make something our own, and to really hold something as our own, and to have that, that space and empowerment to take it where we want to take it. So that absolutely featured in all of the stories. So those are the universal themes. But as I said, really importantly, on the flip side were those individual differences. And this is why we use the best experience activity. It's dead simple. We can share it. It's really easy to run. Because we want to find out for the people we're working with, what does good look like for them? We do not want to make assumptions. We probably know half the story in terms of the universal themes, but equally we are always curious and wanting to understand what it looks like for individuals and teams and departments we're working with. So that's why we run Best Experience, to get to the heart of that really quickly. And I'll give you one example. When we ran Best Experience stories or activities with Rolls-Royce, one of the themes that came out was people often talked about, I had a really clear brief. I knew exactly what was expected of me. It was really black and white, and I knew what I needed to do. When we ran it with the British Council, who kind of waved the flag for Britain abroad, and they sort of, travel all over the world, that didn't feature at all. What came out of their Best Experience stories, in addition to the universal themes, was this sense of fun and adventure and risk-taking. I didn't quite know where I was going to wake up the next week, and I suddenly got posted to this job over there, and I thought I was going there. It was really exciting and really kind of big on the social piece, because, lots of expats in certain areas of the world all going out together, work hard, play hard. That sense of adventure, that featured really heavily. That didn't feature at all in Rolls-Royce. This is probably really obvious stuff, but we don't often take time to think about this and consider it. So very quickly, if you start to go out to your people and you ask them to tell you a story about the time when they were at their best at work, you'll very quickly uncover what a great experience means to them. And half the story you'll think, yeah, I could have probably predicted some of that. But the other half of the story is where you need to get really curious, because I guarantee there'll be some stuff that comes out that you probably weren't expecting. So this is the stuff that really makes a difference to people at work. So I said, it's in 12 years of collecting stories, no one's ever said coffee. No one's ever said because I got paid lots of money or had a big fat bonus. No one's ever said any of that stuff. It's the stuff that's much more intrinsic. So that's just a kind of an introduction to the Magica model. As I said, we can share with you the link to download the white paper or the research. So any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm going to hand back over to Bea now to finish up.
Thank you so much, and thanks for doing such a good job of taking us through the Magica model. I think I need to get a print of it and stuck on the wall behind your head, because it is such a great model, and I think it deserves to be visible, more visible than it is. Obviously, all the information about it is in the book. So what we've heard from Emma, understanding the psychology of best experiences is your starting point for designing employee experiences. When we take this model and add it to the insight that we can gather direct from employees, we really do have the foundations to create generally brilliant experiences for our people that ultimately create competitive advantage for our organization. So I suppose the key message here is that you need to seek to understand the human in your employee. And that is the fundamental basis of great design. So treat EX and EX design as a collaborative effort of discovery, design, experimentation, and iteration, but always start at that starting point of understanding what it is you're designing for. We'd love to hear more best experiences stories. If you would like to tweet us and share your best experience stories, that would be brilliant. Use the summer series hashtag, and also if you want to put in hashtag EX by design, then it will get to us as well. And we'll pick randomly one of the stories, and we'll pop a copy. We'll get in touch with you and pop a copy of the book in the post to you. So do share with us on Twitter your best experience of work stories, and we really look forward to seeing them. Thank you so much. Yeah, and if there are questions, we're happy to hang around and answer those.
Emma, Belinda, thank you so much, and well done for doing that without the visual model. And I agree, we need to print it and stick it behind you.
I only wrote it in the book, It's just, I play with an acronym so I'd remember it. I blame my menopause brain. I've been blogging about this a lot recently. And I just, it's like brain fog.
Well, whatever the excuse is, menopause brain, sunshine brain, whatever it is, I think you did amazing. But not only remembering it, for putting it together in the first place, like you said, all this research, all these stories, all this work that's gone behind it. This isn't just something that you've just put together for a 20-minute presentation for the summer series, right? Like, this is so deep rooted in so many organizations and through so much work that you've done. It really got me thinking, firstly, how amazingly beautifully simple yet it is. But often people wonder, where does employee experience design sit, or what responsibility is it, or where does it sit in the organization, or who should be responsible for it? And then I got thinking, as a line manager in an organization, I could use this Magica model as the blueprint into how I manage, right? Just like thinking about who I am, how I manage my team. So it can be used on the kind of granular day-to-day level, right the way through to this whole organizational experience design, right? I mean, that's more of a question than a statement.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point, because we talk a lot about where does EX sit, and we did some work to sort of map it out, the EX landscape, which we've got in the book, to sort of help people figure out which bit they can kind of influence and contribute to, because obviously it's overwhelming, right? It's huge. You go, if you're suddenly given the job title of EX director or whatever it might be, you might think, well, where do I start? But I think the point about line managers is really critical, because we can intentionally design lots of great experiences, but the rubber really hits the road where, at that kind of team level. So you can have an amazing onboarding experience and you can have great internal comms, all that good stuff. But actually, if in your kind of local day-to-day, your kind of experience with your manager and your teammates isn't great, that all the other stuff just kind of fades into insignificance. So I think, empowering managers to be able to have these kind of conversations with their teams and figure out what does good look like for them and work towards that is where you really move the dial on EX. And B, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, totally in accordance with what you said. And I think the thing about the Magica model is it actually is a model, but it's a tool. It's a really practical conversation starter. And as you said, Ruth, it's absolutely something that can inform really great conversations and sort of, I don't want to talk about traditional management development, but really boost the people skills of line managers. I think it would be a really useful thing to do.
It's also given me a great self-reflection boost that I so needed today. It's got me really thinking about where are the areas that I'm not driving myself. Like maybe I haven't given myself enough challenge today, or maybe I'm really lacking in that connection, or maybe I don't feel like I have enough meaning today, and that might change tomorrow, but it's a nice thing to use in self-coaching, self-reflection, line management, through to entire organizational design. I think it's so beautifully simple but well researched and clearly really powerful and impactful. So again, just a huge thank you, and I need to get my hands on your book and read it too.
Yeah, a lot of work that goes into making something simple though, right? So yeah,
yeah.
we're big fans of simple, because we're really passionate about taking this stuff from theory and conversation into real life application. So yeah, and it's interesting when people do share their best experience stories. Quite often, you can see the light bulbs going on. And I had probably not the ideal story to share, but in one workshop one day years ago, I had a lady who worked for I won't say who it was, but it was a large financial services corporation, and she came up to the end and she said, "You know what? I've realized I'm never ever going to find the fulfillment and the engagement that I need at this place, because thinking about when I've been at my best, I've been thriving. I've realized that I'm actually loads better in that kind of organization where I get what I need. And it's never going to work for me here." And so she was actually really grateful that she'd done that self-reflection piece, that she was never going to be thriving.
Yeah, another place that we're using it a lot at the moment is when we're talking about having organizations think about hybrid and what that means. And it's also a great tool to think about what may have been compromised or impacted over the last 16 months or so, and what do you really need to keep in mind when you're designing a brilliant hybrid experience with your people, not for your people, clearly. And some things really jump off the page, for instance, things like connection, but there are some other things that have been really potentially compromised in recent months, depending on the organization. So things like growth, where organizations have had to pivot massively. It's been all hands to the pump, and also autonomy. So people have been sort of shunted into doing different things that they might have been happy to do to support, the sort of the continuity of the business, but are now potentially still in those roles or doing those tasks which they hadn't really signed up for. So I think it's a really great, almost like a lens to think about what has happened and what have people experienced, and then how do we want people to be.
That was actually going to be my next question, was what do you think has been compromised the most over the last year and a half? Because it's definitely, I'm sure it's been a catalyst for some of these exact subjects. So again, when I was listening to you talking through the Magica I was thinking about all of those things as well, like where we've lacked connection and maybe where we've been in survival mode, not growth mode, and all the rest of it. So, wow, I mean, I could talk to you both for the rest of the day, but we did promise to keep the summer series short, sharp, and inspirational learning bursts, which I really hope that I'm sure that we've you both have delivered today. Do you have any final few words of parting wisdom or guidance for any of our listeners? Viewers?
I would say, if you do nothing else, just go out and have some best experience conversations, because it is really powerful. It's dead simple and easy. It will fast track you to the heart of what really matters to your people way quicker than any amount of surveying will do. And it's really human, and it does connect you to other people. So I'd say, just, if you can't do anything else, just do that. Start with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for me, it would be kind of like building on that. If you can only do two things, do the next thing, which is that just like approaching employee experience design as a collaborative journey. It's not something you do for your people, it's something to do with your people. So absolutely finding out what good looks like is the starting point. And then thinking about, okay, what do we need to do to create more of that? But keeping that conversation alive rather than disappearing back into your own little office and doing it on your own.
Amazing. And don't rely on the beer trolley. Gregory's just said, Emma and Belinda, thank you. I'm really looking forward to reading your book. I'm sure many people are. So all the links and comments, and if you want to get your hands on that book, we'll include in the blog post that goes along with the on-demand video of this. So Emma, Belinda will grab all of those off you, and we will get that live within the next 24 hours.
Great. Thank you for inviting us to join you.
It's great talking with you today.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, both of you.
Bye. Bye.